Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the program This Week in America, website thisweekinamerica.us. It's said that Los Angeles South Central teachers can survive only about 7 years. Our guest on This Week in America, Orinio Opinaldo, has made 7 years, made those easily, and another 37 years on top of that, teaching all elementary grades and serving as a resource and a teacher in art, drama, math, writing, and reading. He was chosen as Outstanding Teacher by the LA Mayor's Office, nominated for the Disney Teacher of the Year Award, and selected as the 2008 Hero for Harmony Elementary School. He's the author of the new book, Apples in God's Eye, Love Memoir in Search of the Beloved, a reflection of his remarkable journey. Orinio Opinaldo, our guest on the program. Orinio, welcome to the program. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you, Rick. It's glad to be here.
What a great career, and thank you for coming on the program to share that with us and to give us a little bit of background. You talk in the book, St.Agnes School, where you started school, and you talk about when you first walked into the original church, that you were sort of transported back to another world. Is that where this whole journey of service began for you back during that period?
No, I don't think it did. I think it started about when I was maybe about 6 or 7 years old. People used to always say, "Oh, you're so cute, you're so handsome, look at your legs and everything else. Oh, you're going to break somebody's heart when you grow up." And I remember one day going into the mirror and looking in the mirror, and I don't know why I said this. I said, "God, why did you make me so handsome and beautiful? I just want to love you. I don't want people chasing after me." So I think that's when it started.
That's when this whole life into This Week in America. Our guest on the program, Orinio Opinaldo. Information on his book is available at our website, thisweekinamerica.us, as well as exlibris.com and amazon.com. Let's talk about, and I mentioned that in South Central LA, teachers last about 7 years. You lasted a whole lot more than that. And as I'm reading the book, I get the sense this was all really based on your love of teaching and your love of the students and the fact that the bigger the classroom, the better, because you actually can help these students.
That's very true. Somehow I knew what children needed, but the most important thing was that I was born to serve, and service was the thing. I mean, a lot of teachers tried to get me to go to the West Side. They said, "You'd be phenomenal," and I said, "I cannot do that. I need to serve where I was put to serve the whole community."
What's it like when you get students that come up and say, "Thank you. You really molded my life"? And there are stories in the book. There was one, a student musician that was out on a world tour, was in your first class at 52nd Street Elementary back in 1964. And you went over and above back then. You did an operetta. He decided this is really something I want to do for the rest of my life. And he comes back and says, "You really gave me guidance, and I am who I am today because of what you taught me." When you hear stories like that, how do you feel?
Well, I feel wonderful, but my whole mission with the students is I did not do that. You did that because you made that choice. You create your own universe, more or less. To give you an example, I had a young lady that wanted to be a dancer in one play, and I couldn't keep her after school because I had too many, but she still came. One student left, and she danced so beautifully at the dancing party, and she came to thank me. I said, "Dear, it was you. It was your intention to make it happen." My whole thing with children is I want you to be who you want to be, and I'm here to open all the doors so that you can discover who you are and what you want to be.
It's interesting as we're focusing now so much in the country on education, the quality of education, the quality of teachers. You were saying that you taught the first grade students and it was difficult for you emotionally to let them go at the end of each year. And you said something interesting. There's really no learning community. It's just individual teachers doing their thing over and over. Is that one of the problems? There's no continuity?
I firmly believe that, and I've worked on reform for so many years, and we get that. In real learning community, it just isn't the students. It's the students, the teachers, the administration, but also the parents. Parents should be part of the whole learning community, and even business people, because that is the whole growth of a community. And I don't feel that's truly happening.
When you look back at that and the fact that you said it was difficult emotionally, if you've got 37 kids in your classroom, the way you treated those, you had 37 individual kids in that classroom that you felt responsible for. How difficult was that, letting them go on, not quite sure what would happen to them after they left your first grade and moved on to second grade? How difficult was that process?
Well, I always try to live in the present. And I realized, hey, I had to teach them and give them the best that I could give, and then have them move on. And when they moved on, I hoped I taught them that you have to be able to work with other people and so forth. I'll never forget this one student. When he finally graduated, he came to thank me so much because the way I'd inspired him. And even when he got into college, he came back to thank me. And to me, that was his dream, and he was fulfilling his dream, not mine.
You're listening to This Week in America. Our guest on the program, Orinio Opinaldo. His book is called Apples in God's Eye. It's available at Amazon, Ex Libris. Information, of course, at our website, thisweekinamerica.us, talking about the career. And you had a number of family and friends over the years that said, you really need to write this book. The book is Apples in God's Eye. How difficult a decision was it to sit down and put all of this on paper and to do the book?
Well, they kept after me. They kept after me. And I'm the type of person, I love to be in the present, solving problems immediately. But they kept after me, and I said, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write. How did I create what I did? Because when people would come and see my children perform, they were totally amazed how well they performed. And all I did was sit down and wrote it in sections that will teach a lesson. And if you reflect on it by observation of your life or whatever you're doing, you will see that reflection coming. That's how I thought I could help people.
Yeah, the book is divided into chapters. It's very easy to read. It's very inspirational. It's the story of what Orinio has been able to do in the classroom. And I want to talk a little bit about your spiritual foundation. And you talk in the book, Apples in God's Eye, that early on in school, a teacher, a nun, was talking to you about God made everything out of nothing, and you were a little combative at that point. You weren't quite sure that you were able to accept that. You were actually questioning things at that age, weren't you?
Oh, I question all the time. I mean, I constantly question things. And sometimes I couldn't open my mouth because during that time, uh, when I give you a good example, one time that a nun said that uh, gay people were not of God's kingdom, and they were this and they were that and so forth. And I said, I wonder where she got this. And I went and did some research, and I found out that elephants and other animals have things go with other animals of the same sex. And I went up to her and I said, you told me that animals worship God. How do they worship God? And then she said, by being themselves. And I said, oh, she answered my question. And that was solved for me. Because I always question, especially if you're talking about other human beings or other creatures, to me, that is not being one in community with all of the universe.
You say in the book, Apples in God's Eye, and it's really interesting that God is a no thing. And we so often like to put him, in a box. We want to have boundaries there. We want to clearly define who God is, what God is, the power of God. And you say very succinctly, God is a no thing. You really can't do that.
Right. To me, anybody that conceptualizes who God is in their mind, that is not who God is, because it's a mental conceptualization. God is beyond all conceptualization. So when somebody tells me that you should believe in this as God, that's your community point of view. Every religion is like a community, and they have a perspective. And to me, God is all things, because when I studied all religions, most of the religions had the same values and tenets. And to me, when I really became God is the number one entity of my life. I didn't just want to study God through Christianity. I wanted it in Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, and Islamic and everything. And every time I studied, there was a truth that was the truth found in each religion.
Our guest on This Week in America, Orinio Opinaldo. His book is called Apples in God's Eye. It's available at Amazon. Information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. You had another challenging period you talk about when you graduated from St.Agnes and you're out in the real world, materialistic and capitalistic, and you really, at that point, sort of struggled in making sense of everything. And that's where a lot of people deviate because they're on their own. And when they see that real world out there, it's very tempting. Talk about that temptation and how you were able to refocus your life.
Well, after I started going to college, I questioned myself, hey, have I been indoctrinated falsely about the religion? Because I was hearing things and for instance, as a Catholic, we were taught that if you really loved somebody, you would do nothing to have to put them into hell, more or less. You would work on their innocent and pure. And when I was in school, I did that. But once I got into college and everybody came after me for sexual reasons and everything, and drinking and everything, it hit me kind of hard. And all of a sudden, I was reading one book, How Can Being Educated Make You Forget About God? And that's when I returned and really focused. But the greatest lesson that I learned was in making mistakes, the mistakes get you closer to your belief and your ideas. When I teach the children in school, it's all right to make a mistake. It's all right to make a mistake as long as you learn from it. If you learn from it, then it's an important thing. Like the other day, I was talking about Thomas Edison, who invented the light bulb. I said he made 7,000 mistakes. And look at him, he never gave up. So I expect none of you to give up. Make a mistake, don't tear it up, don't break it up. Just learn from it and move on.
When you look at your life, and I know you're in the present and not looking back, but you wanted to be a priest, you wanted to be an artist, a soldier, a teacher, and you decided, you know what? I can be all of those all rolled up into one. You actually fulfilled like all of those dreams by being a teacher and being there for people.
Yes, it's wonderful that I had people to stop me, because when I wanted to be a priest, my father said no. And when I wanted to be an artist, my father said no. But when finally to become a teacher, I became all of those things, and I was really there to serve with all my heart, the community and so forth. But being anything you want to be, you can be everything. It doesn't just stop there. Whatever you want to do, if your intention is strong enough, you can be it. And that's the dream that I want to give to children and what they want to do. I don't want them to be what their mother wants them to be or what I want them to be. I want them to find their value and that they can be whatever they choose to be, and to give them all the skills that will make them that.
Orinio Opinaldo, our guest on the program. The book is Apples in God's Eye. A couple minutes left in the show. There's so many interesting aspects to the book. And I want to focus a little bit on education. And as I'm reading, you're back after retirement working in Harmony Elementary as a mentor coach for teachers. And you had a student teacher that come up and says, I really, again, want to thank you for what you were able to do for me. And I remember reading so many books and enjoying them so much in the first grade. In fact, you had us read more books in first grade than I even read in high school. And you took that as a compliment, but that also what sort of angered you as well, that teachers beyond first grade really weren't challenging these students.
Well, it did, because it hurt me. For one reason, we have to challenge them and we have to believe in them. And reading is the most important thing for children to do. Like I always tell them to read a just right book. I don't care what kind of book it is. I don't care if it's a comic book. If that's the book of your choice and you want to read it, and you'll grow and be valuable. And I was upset that some teachers did not push that and believe in the children. When I'm working with the classroom, my bottom line is get the children on your side. Once you get them on your side, you win. I give you a good example. When I taught first grade and it came to parent conferences, I told the boys and girls, I said, we're having parent conferences. I expect you to get your mom and dad over here for my conference. And I already know you can get anything from your parents that you want. And I'm going to see if you can get them here. And I got all my kids there because I give children power and responsibility that they already have.
You know, a couple of minutes left in the show, and I began in talking about all the years you served in South Central, and 7 pretty much is an eternity there for a teacher. You were over 40. What was it that motivated you, not only motivated you, but allowed you to stay for that number of years and not get burned out and go, I can't do this anymore? You thrived on that environment and seeing smiles and acknowledgement of learning on the children's faces.
Well, the number one thing, I was always a problem solver. I never went and said I couldn't solve a problem. No matter how bad the class was or anything else, I was there to solve the problem. And I was there to put them first before me. And once I did that, they knew it, and miracles happened. To me, first of all, I was not the kind of person that I'm going to drive 40 miles outside of my community to get a job and be somewhere. My main focus was I wanted a job close to where I worked. And I could have even bicycled. I did sometimes, but I could have even walked there. But my whole thing was to be in the community, to serve the community. And that's the way I felt.
Well, being in the community, a couple of drug houses on your block that people have spent years trying to get rid of, you did it in a couple of months, and nobody got hurt or killed in the process. Is there that calmness because you've got this firm belief that makes it possible for you to do this? I mean, I feel calm in just listening to you talk here. I'm ready to run through a wall for you right now with your well, I could actually open the door and walk out, so I'm not going to have to do that. But is that part? Why do you think you're so successful? Because you have that inner peace that, like you said, every problem I can solve. Give me a problem and I'll figure it out.
Well, my number one thing is always don't look at the problem, work on solving it. And when we had these 2 crack houses in the community, I organized the community and I told them how to safely do this. I said, observation is more or less the beginning of learning. You just observe. Get to your house, put down the information, give it to me, and so forth. And once we constantly do that, we can get rid of it. It was the whole community working together. To me, real learning is community working together. And I do it with, I did it with my community. I do it with the choir that I teach. I'm not the best singer in the world, but we work together as a community and learn from each of them. Everything I do is a community combined together, so we learn together and grow together.
It is an excellent book. It's called Apples in God's Eye. The author and our guest on the program is Orinio Opinaldo. His book is available at Amazon, Ex Libris. Information you can find on our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Orinio, it was a pleasure having the opportunity to read the book Apples in God's Eye, and great to have you with us on the program. Thank you for sharing your story with us. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
You're listening to This Week in America, website thisweekinamerica.us.